So we were talking about levels of biodiversity. The levels of biodiversity are of three types: genetic biodiversity, species biodiversity, and ecosystem biodiversity. The genetic biodiversity or genetic diversity deals with the diversity at the level of DNA sequences. It has been seen that even in a single species, different individuals might have different DNA sequences. Particularly when we study the mini satellite DNA or the repeated repeated areas in the gene. Like in case of human being, the VNTRs, variable number tandem repeats, they are variable in numbers in different individuals, and on the basis of which the DNA fingerprinting differs. Metagenomic research has shown that different individuals of a species in a particular environmental sample might differ at the level of DNA sequence. And when we talk about the species biodiversity, we have a different level of species biodiversity starting from alpha, beta to omega. And we will see that what is this species diversity is all. The ecosystem diversity deals with the diversity present in different ecosystems, and that is basically because of the variation of the abiotic and biotic factors that interact with each other. The species biodiversity is the most biggest biodiversity that we talk about. It is a diversity within a species or between a species and in a single habitat or more than one habitat. When we talk about diversity at a single habitat, it is called alpha diversity. In one habitat, when you are seeing the diversity in a smaller area, so it is at the level of population, you can say. And when you are seeing the diversity between different habitats, then it is called beta diversity. The gamete diversity is even bigger than that. It says diversity within a particular ecosystem altogether. It may be at the range of country. So when you are seeing the diversity of some species at the country level, then it is called gamma diversity. And when the diversity is seen at the level of biome, it is called delta diversity. And when it is seen entirely on the basis of biosphere on the earth, the atmosphere that contains the living system, when it is seen globally, it is called omega diversity. The species diversity might be of different stages, can be studied at different stages, like this. So there are biodiversity hotspots on the globe. It has been found that there are certain regions which are very, very rich in rich reservoir of biodiversity, and they are under threat to human activity, anthropological activities. Such areas are called hotspots, biological hotspots. The concept was given by Norman Meyer in his article in the Environmentalist in 1988 and 1990. The concept of hotspot is that a hotspot is such an area that contains more than 1,500 different species of plants and animals, and that are under threat of extinction. A biodiversity hotspot must contain at least 1,500, more than 1,500 species of basal plants, and has lost at least 70% of its primary diversity that was existing. So, worldwide, it is seen that there are 25 such hotspots. And at the level of India, when you talk about India, there are two hotspots. One is the Eastern Himalaya, and the other is Western Ghat. So these are the two areas, Eastern Himalaya and the Western Ghat. This is Eastern Himalaya and this is Western Ghat. These are the two hot spots in India. In it, the Eastern Himalaya is more diverse than the Western Ghats. They contain more than 1500 endemic species of vascular plants. Now, this is the list of different plants, animals, and microbes and other groups of organisms present in the biosphere. You can see this is the number of Animalia is the largest. It has been divided into two categories: Earth and Ocean. This is terrestrial and this is oceanic. So, number of species of Animalia animals is 9,53,434 in terrestrial land, and it is 1,71,082 in ocean. The Chromista group, that is the heterocontin alga, the brown alga, diatoms, etc. They occupy 13,033 species in terrestrial land, and in aquatic environment it is 4,859 species are there. Fungi is quite large. There are 43,271 species on Earth, and on marine environment there are 1,097 species. Plantae represent 2,15,644 in terrestrial environment, and in aquatic environment it is 8,600. So these are so and so forth. These are the different numbers of species of various types of organisms on Earth. And as far as the endangered and threatened species are concerned, IUCN, the International Union of Nature and International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. Has enlisted the data of threatened and endangered species in a book that is called Red Data Book, and they have defined a threatened and endangered species in a way. A threatened species is one which is at the verge of becoming endangered, and in terms, the endangered species are those which are at the verge of extinction. So the endangered species are declining at the rate of 50% every 10 years, and they occupy merely less than 5,000 square kilometers. Critically endangered species are at high risk of becoming extinct, declining at the rate of 80% per 10 year, and restricted merely in less than 100 square kilometer area. Those are critically endangered. So one of the endangered species of animals is this giant panda, Eleuropoda melanoleuca. This giant panda is an endangered species. The tiger, the Panthera tigris, the Royal Bengal tiger, is also endangered species in India. In case of plant, Rafflesia arnoldii is the endangered species, and Psilotum nudum is another example of endangered species of plants. Psilotum nudum is pteridophyta, whereas this one is an angiosperm, the largest flower, the plant with largest flower. As far as the biodiversity conservation are concerned, let us see what are the reasons for this biodiversity loss, why these species are becoming endangered. We will see that there are several factors, like all of them are related with human beings also. Like the habitat disturbance is the main reason. The habitat where the organisms survive, that the disturbance of that area because of the infrastructure development is the main reason for their becoming extinct or endangered. Habitat fragmentation, again the same thing. A big habitat may be fragmented into smaller habitats because of the development of roadways and buildings and all that. And these patchy populations are called metapopulations. Sometimes it might happen that because of the emigration from one patch to the nearby patches, this population may dwindle, and it may mightly be the species thriving over there might become extinct one day. So this is one region of fragmentation, habitat fragmentation. Habitat destruction for the purpose of cultivation or human settlement is another reason. Exotic species being when they are introduced, they occupy the habitat of the native species, thereby disturbing their growth. Like the Icornia crassipes, when they were brought from, they were not exactly brought from. They suddenly entered with wheat, probably. When the wheat was imported, they also came. The seeds of them might have come along with that, and they become a wild plant in India. And whenever they grow in a river or a pond or a lake, they are the only species seen everywhere. So this is another disturbance. Overexploitation if you can compare, take an example of Jhum cultivation for that. Overexploitation of lands for cultivation purpose or any other developmental purpose is another reason. Pollution has caused biodiversity loss, like the lichen species are gradually dwindling in city areas where pollution is high, and the climate change is another reason for this biodiversity loss. These are the reasons why biodiversity is being lost, and there is a major concern for conservation of this biodiversity. There are three strategies of conservation: ex situ conservation, in situ conservation, and preservation. Ex situ conservation is a kind of a conservation where you are bringing the particular species from its original place of living to a protected environment, like a garden or a park, where they will be taken care of by people, experts over there, but that is not its original place of growth. So this kind of conservation is called ex situ conservation. For example, botanical garden and zoological parks are the example of ex situ conservation. In ex situ conservation, DNA library and cryo banks are also being used for preserving their DNA and tissues, etc. Tissue cultures are used to generate new plants from to propagate such plants which are at the risk of becoming endangered. In situ conservation conserves the species at its original site. That's why the name is in situ. There are three types of such conservation strategies. Biosphere reserve is a very large area that contains many national parks inside or sanctuaries inside. Biosphere reserve is reservation is a kind of it can be divided into three zones. The central part is called the core region, which is undisturbed, which contains only the research activities. There is a buffer zone where human interference can be there, and outside that there is a transition zone where human settlement, little bit of human settlement is allowed, and social forestry kind of thing is going on. And the main human settlement is outside that. So this is biosphere reserve. National parks are highly protected areas in which there is no provision for human settlement, even animal grazing and encroachment, everything is prohibited in national parks. Sanctuaries are, however, a little bit allowed for human interference. They are used as a place for visit for tourists and other tourist places. They can act as tourist place. People might visit over there to see. So there a little bit of interference is there.